Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about why Tasmania the state in Australia, needs an AFL team. So first of all, I just want to remind you all that if you're new around here, you need to subscribe. We're on a big plus at the moment. We're up to 38 subscribers on YouTube at the moment, which is really exciting. There are a few links in the description actually. There's going to be the normal petition for signing to make a Tasmanian AFL team, which I'm going to talk more about later in the video, I think. There's also going to be the new channel that's on YouTube. My apologies for that. There's a new channel that's going to be on YouTube, link in description. And, oh yeah, in the newspaper, what was it, 2 days ago? A day ago, in the Examiner, which is the biggest Tasmanian newspaper, really, it's called the Examiner. Yesterday, they put out, or 2 days ago, whenever, they put out a survey for businesses saying, would you like to see a Tasmanian AFL team? I've answered that. Obviously, I'm not old enough to have a business. By looks, I'm certainly not old enough to have a business, but we just put NA, which is not available for that. But we still did the survey, and I will still put the link in the description for that to answer to the Examiner about that. And make sure to like and subscribe. So to get started on the actual video, first of all, Tasmanians have been campaigning, and the AFL have been talking about making a Tasmanian AFL team for over 20 years. Obviously, I haven't even been in Tasmania for 20 years because I haven't been existing for 20 years. What I can say is now that I am a Tasmanian, we've lost footy. We've lost it pretty much. Apart from North Melbourne and Hawthorn. Hawthorn is a definite no because, you know, you may or may not know my opinions about Hawthorn. Hawthorn are disgusting. I don't like them. North Melbourne, however, I really like North Melbourne. And they say that North are going to be the big improvers to this year, which also, if you're watching this when I have made the AFL 2020 predictions video, please go and watch that. If not, keep watching this video. The AFL have been talking about it for over 20 years now, and nothing's happened. We've been hearing all this talk for 20 years. We really haven't been hearing any conversations about, oh, it's going to be starting, oh, it's going to be happening this year. So, one of the radio stations, or the paper, or the something, has come out and said that it's going to be 4 to 5 years, seasons in the AFL, before we get this actually started. In 4 or 5 years, we'll have a team. Now, I'm not really quite convinced about that. I think we need to have a Tasmanian AFL team really soon, and I've just decided to shove all those bad thoughts out the door, and I'm campaigning for it now. We're happening now, and we're starting now, and oh yeah, the AFL have already filtered and made a good stadium in University of Tasmania Stadium. Or if you've been around when York Park still existed, which it still does exist, it's just got a few name changes. York Park, which is in Launceston, which is 12 minutes, which is everything in Launceston. Everything is 12 minutes away, or 10 minutes away, or something short like that. 12 minutes away in Invermay, which is not very far from us, so we can go and watch the North Launceston Bombers in the Tasmanian State League very often. Now, that's not the same. They don't have the quality players they need. That's not the same. They don't have the quality players they need Tasmanians, if you're not familiar with any famous Tasmanians in the AFL, if you're North supporters, your Ben Brown is a Tasmanian. That is ridiculous. And Jack Riewoldt is also a Tasmanian. 2 top goal scorers in last year's Golden Boot, that's soccer. Coleman Medal competition. My apologies. They are both Tasmanians. Ricky Ponting, if you're a cricket fan, was a Tasmanian. Matthew Wade was a Tasmanian. He's also another good cricket player in the Tasmanian state team in there, like the Big Bash and Tasmania, 50 overs and 20 overs limited cricket. He is also a Tasmanian. Hugh Goddard, if you're Carlton or St Kilda fan, I don't know where he's at now, but he hasn't really burst out onto the scene. I got a footy card of him a few years ago, and he's not really burst out on the scene that I can see. He's only 23 23, I think. So he hasn't really burst out onto the scene just quite yet, but he hopefully will. There are many more Tasmanians. If you go onto Google, and you type in Tasmanian AFL players, there's a whole list. Matthew Richardson is a Tasmanian, for those Richmond supporters and legends. Over back in Melbourne, he is a Tasmanian. There are some pretty famous players that are currently in Tasmania, like Dom Tyson, I think his name is. He plays for North Melbourne now. He's been injured for the last 12 months, so he is currently a North Melbourne player on their list, but he's injured. There's if you go onto Wikipedia, there's a whole list. You can go and look it up. So you see in the AFL, everyone wants to move back to their home state. Jesse Hogan wants to move back to Fremantle. He's done that. It's done deal. He's been there for a year now. He played mediocre. Everyone's moving clubs so quickly in the AFL. It's so hard to keep up and keep track of where everyone's at. I'm struggling at the moment. I'm struggling with my own team, which unfortunately is not Essendon anymore. I've just, off camera, nothing to do with on camera, but off camera, the fans have been abusive and not good fans. Not good, no, towards their own team, and I don't like that. North Melbourne, they're a good club. They're a club that could improve this year, and I think we're going to see that, because if they don't, they're going to be merged into the first Tasmanian team, and I don't want to see that. I want to see 19 teams, not 18 teams in this AFL in a few years. I don't want to see North in Tasmania, only for what they're doing now. I don't want to see them as a full Tasmanian team. I don't want to see that, because North are a Melbourne team. That's North Melbourne. Hawthorn are a Melbourne team. Now, what was the saying? There's a saying that's like, I'm going to say my version. Hawthorn and North are Melbourne born, but Tasmanian fed. They're still playing in Tasmania about 5 games a year or 4 games a year. So then they're a Melbourne-based team, except they play in Tasmania sometimes. By the way, North Melbourne and Hawthorn's contracts in Tasmania are up at the end of this season. Will they sign on the next year? That's a big question. Will they sign on and play in Tasmania? Now, I was asked this question yesterday at my grandparents' house in Hadspen. For those people who like to know where everything is, I was asked this question yesterday by my grandpa, and I responded, yeah, I would like to see them sign again as playing in Tasmania for a couple of games a year. Not, however, if there is a Tasmanian AFL team. When they do get a Tasmanian AFL team, I don't want to see them sign. I want to see the Tasmanian AFL team stay Hawthorn and North Melbourne can go back to Melbourne and play their games in Melbourne. It's not going to hurt anyone. Apart from all the millions of Hawthorn supporters that are in Tasmania, that unfortunately Tasmania don't even have a population of 1 million, so forget about the million. But the many Hawthorn supporters based in Tasmania, they'd be disappointed. And obviously the North Melbourne supporters based in Hobart, more so. I am a North Melbourne supporter now, but I'm based in Launceston, so that's a bit different. But I am now a Tasmanian, and I want to see a Tasmanian AFL team. I will gladly go and swap. As soon as that happens, I will swap from being a North Melbourne supporter to a Tasmanian AFL team, which we don't know what they're called, so I can't give the name. I know people, a lot are going to criticise me. You can't, unfortunately, so I get that point in the comments. But if the comments were enabled, you would. Because I'm not very loyal to my Essendon. I agree with that, but I can't support what has happened. I can't do it because they get flogged a lot, and there's no support. There's no ongoing support and good vibes in the crowd. I don't want to be in an environment that's not good. I want to be with North Melbourne, because North Melbourne, I kind of talked to a few people off camera as well, kind of, and they seem really friendly as North Melbourne supporters, and I want to be in a good environment for the footy. I don't want to be hurt or yelled at. I'm really scared. I'm not in Melbourne anymore. I'm not a member of Essendon anymore. We can't be, because it's not physically possible to commute every one of the 11 games that we got to go to last year and the year before that, off camera as well. I can't do it anymore because when in a different state, it's a bit, and travelling over the seas, it's a bit different. And well, if you go and watch the 123-point flogging against the Dogs for the Bombers, you'll see why I don't want to really be an Essendon supporter, because Essendon don't try their hardest. North Melbourne, yeah, they get flogged a bit, but they try. They haven't had an 100-point flogging for a little while now. We've just encountered a 100-point flogging. The biggest flogging I remember watching was in Perth, versus West Coast. We got flogged by 63 points, but we still tried, and apparently, I'm not quite sure what's going on with the whole argument that it's really hard to play in Perth. It is really drenching hot in Perth pretty much every day of the year. It does have a fair bit of rainfall, though. I've done a project on that, but that's another conversation. That it's really hard to play in Perth if you're a team based in Melbourne or an area that doesn't cope and doesn't have that much heat. That was before the 42 and 43 consecutive days in Melbourne. That's a whole nother conversation. Now that was a while ago. Before that, that was in the winter and the autumn, or a different season, not summer. I want to see a Tasmanian AFL team, because I really think that Tasmania will get behind them. They'll get a good following from Launceston, obviously, because I hope not to put Hobart off. Hobart are the capital of Tasmania. If you kind of want to know these things, Hobart is the capital of Tasmania, but I don't really want to see that, because a few reasons. Launceston's, I can't compare Launceston to Hobart because I haven't been to Hobart, but what I've heard is it's nicer in Launceston. That's kind of why we got chosen them. And to the second point, the stadium capacity is about 4,500 to 5,000 difference, like capacity wise. Hobart Ground, which is Blythestone Arena, is only 13,000, which is nothing. It's what you get to what. But if you went to a Fremantle versus West Coast game in Melbourne, that's about what you get. Or an unfortunate North Melbourne game, that's what you get. 13,000, or maybe a bit higher than that. It's a bit rude. I think they've a bit better than that, but not too much better. North are a struggling club. Their membership is not good. I don't know why, but they never turn out good games. They never turn out, not good games, good crowds in Melbourne. They need to really build on their membership. I was listening on the radio last night to the new CEO of North Melbourne, who was saying, we need to build our membership and our fan base, which is definitely very agreeable because their fans and their fan base aren't very good. Their cheer squad, however, is really good. They have big flags and big colour. I enjoy kind of watching. I can't really watch, be in the cheer squad. Obviously, I'm not in Melbourne, but we might be able to get in Hobart cheer squad, into the Hobart cheer squad when they play. I haven't talked about that yet with my parents. I might do that. What was I saying? Oh yeah, their environment is just so nice. I can hear them whole game, pretty much, which is really good to see and hear. I want to be in a good environment, which this seems, from what I've seen, which isn't much, a good environment. Obviously, every club has their bad fans, but from the best fans are over on this side. You can't see the table, but the table just goes about an arm's length away. This is the good side, and this is the bad side. If you're watching this, I don't know. One side's the good and one side's the bad. Port Adelaide are over there, and Essendon are over there. They're two different things because it's different. Port have the best fans in the league. They have the loudest fans and probably the best fans in the league. And Essendon don't have that good fans. Tasmanians, in general, away from AFL, are pretty friendly. Now, obviously, when you get AFL, you get, followed by that, you get alcohol and beer in some areas. Some areas, not all, some areas of the ground, which may or may not create a bad or a violent, potentially. Not often do you see violence in the AFL, but when you do see violence in the AFL, unfortunately, it is getting more and more common. You do see that, which is unfortunate because AFL is so good to watch most of the time. Why don't you just watch your team and barrack? Barrack is really important because your team needs you. The whole way, the fans, they need to cheer and they need to barrack and support their team. That's what you do. That's what you pay the big bucks for. The big bucks to watch your team play. And Tasmanians are just friendly, which makes me think Tasmanian AFL is a happy environment. Tasmanians love AFL. They're really big on AFL here. I can already tell because I'm at high school now and I've been speaking to a lot of people and they say, I like AFL. That's a lot more than you did in Melbourne. I asked a fair few people in Melbourne, do you like AFL? They gave a mixed response. Probably some no more than yes. Which in the background here you've got the soccer goal, which is just there. Lots more people like soccer more than AFL, but AFL is more exciting. I like soccer. If you go on this channel, there's a lot more soccer videos, I reckon, than AFL, but a lot more vlogs and match experiences from AFL. I've been following AFL since 2015, which means I was about 8 since I've been following AFL, just in general, and they've been pretty good years because I don't reckon I'd be the same without AFL. This YouTube channel may or may not exist because AFL isn't here. If AFL wasn't a thing, YouTube might not exist in my world. My filming might not exist. This camera stand that this camera's on might not exist. There's a lot of things that might be different and that could be changed because AFL's not here. And I think it's time now to make a Tasmanian AFL team, where their only big state excludes the two territories, Northern Territory and Canberra. Tasmania is a state in Australia. You might not believe that, but it's true. Tasmania is a state in Australia, and we don't have a team. We need a team because the people are getting louder and louder, and they want this. The AFL, who cares about if they don't have the money? They do have the money. That's rubbish, because you people that go and just get it, go to games, any game in the AFL, and just get a ticket. How much does it cost to get good seats? It costs so much to get a good seat in the AFL. Like, if you were to get a cheer squad seat, a level 1 behind the goal seat at the MCG, or even worse, Marvel, I was going to say Etihad then, but it's not Etihad, it's Marvel, you would be paying so much. The AFL they've expanded across all the states in Australia, apart from Tasmania, and the two territories. There's a bit of reasoning, I reckon, behind that, but we'll talk about that later, I reckon. Tasmania is the only big state which don't have a team. I think that's time we make a change. So what you need to go and do is you need to go and you need to sign the petition, first of all. You need to go and fill in the survey on SurveyMonkey with the Examiner. And you need to go and like and subscribe to both my new channel and this channel. This channel's probably more important. Actually, no, forget that. The other channel's more important because I haven't made a video on it yet. So you guys are just gonna have to wait because it's not visible yet, but it will be. Make sure to like and subscribe, and just do everything you possibly can to make this video really popular, really seeable in the YouTube world. See you later, folks.